Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Q-Tip Head, live on Twitch. My wife did my cut, G, so I hope you guys can enjoy it because I was certainly getting a lot of comments about it nonstop, and I hope you're happy because while I'm shaved and while the hair is much shorter than it was before, um, my wife doesn't like how scratchy my face is now, and she wants my beard to come back. She already misses it, so she took a hit for you guys. You can thank her for taking the hit on that one because she prefers the beard to be out, but oh well. Yeah, I'm watching. For those in space sex news, I do have SN 7.2 testing going on right now. We're gonna see if the tank pops, but that's not what we're live here for today. I know there's still no dancing intro. We got to find some music that I can use without losing my job, because that's how the internet works these days. Um, you like my cut, G? Not the best dictator for their services. What are you talking about? Reload. I think they should have got an iPad instead of iPhone. Who are you referring to? Who should have got an iPad instead of an iPhone? I don't know what you're referring to, but yeah, this year feels like the year of the Mac. I mean, I've seen a lot of reports and a lot of articles lately talking about how Apple, if the rumors end up being true, which a lot of very reputable leakers and analysts are coming forward with these kind of return to form. Um, Apple is bringing back MagSafe. They're bringing back the SD card slot. They're bringing back the Magic Key. They've already brought back the Magic Keyboard. They ditched the butterfly keys last year, I think, for good. No laptop retain the butterfly switches now. So they went back to the old keyboard and now thinking about ditching the touch bar. And people are appreciative of the Apple Silicon transition. I mean, I guess that is new. So that. There's still some new stuff like mini LED and the updated design language we're looking forward to. But essentially, everything is kind of like it's almost like Apple read the comments, which I feel like they almost never do. I mean, most of the time, especially with iPhones and stuff or software, or the App Store is another great example. Apple is kind of like, we're going to do what we're going to do, and y'all got to live with it. Y'all got to figure it out. Yeah, we're ditching the charge port. Yeah, we're not going to keep the headphone jack around. Yeah, you don't need a fan in a laptop. You don't need a CD drive anymore. Apple just kind of does what they want to do, and everybody else just kind of adapts to it, and everyone just kind of gets used to it. Whereas it almost feels like with all of these Mac announcements, especially the iMac refresh, it just feels like Apple is finally listening, which is interesting. Maybe they act differently because they know this market is a lot smaller than the iPhone market and a lot more what do you call it? Not dominating, or as it feels like the iPhone is kind of dominant or the iPad is kind of dominant in the market it serves, whereas Macs aren't necessarily dominant in the field they're in. So maybe Apple wants a bit more substantial growth in this department, and they're hoping for kind of a more of a like hostile takeover in a way, kind of aggressive, like they're going on the offense. Like, okay, what does the competition have against us, and how can we beat that? How can we beat them? And I guess they realize they can't really afford to lose out on certain upgrades or lose out on certain customers. So instead, they're just kind of going all in on like, what do you guys want? And people are like, well, I miss MagSafe. I don't like the touch bar. I want an SD card slot. So they're like, okay, we're going to make better computers with better screens, better designs, and we're going to bring back all of your old favorite ports again, which is fascinating to see a change in direction like that. Almost one of the biggest Apple 180s, potentially, if these rumors end up being correct. I believe them. I know probably not everybody does, but Bloomberg is very reputable. Usually when they report on something, it ends up happening. It might be late, but it usually ends up happening. And Quo is also saying these similar types of things. So when you got two fairly reputable leakers coming together on that type of thing, it's not so crazy that it's unbelievable. There are certain rumors that come out, like the Apple VR headset thing, that sound a little too crazy, and I'm like, I don't know. It seems like a little too out of left field for Apple, but I'm not a crazy big fan of MagSafe, especially if I can keep charging through USB-C. I'll just keep charging through USB-C, but I have nothing against it as an option. If it's just going to be there and I don't have to use it, but people who want it can use it, that's great. That's, options are good. to a certain extent. You can have too many options and then it gets crazy. But holy cow, I think Matt K is breaking some kind of record here. 29-month streak of Twitch Prime. That's a long time, Matt. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the support, but wow, 29 months? My goodness. Cyber Octling subbed with Twitch Prime for 28 months, tailing right behind Matt, says, so many Macs, shaking my head, like the new MacBook Air is rumored to be a higher-end model and not a replacement. We are going to have so many Macs per model. I don't know. That part of the rumor doesn't sound believable to me. My guess is that they're just replacing the old MacBook Air with a newer, more powerful one, but the timeline might be a little bit off. Like, similar to how everyone said a mini LED iPad Pro with 5G would come out at the end of 2020, and that didn't happen. I think there's a decent chance that this refreshed, redesigned MacBook Air with thinner bezels and MagSafe and an updated look, I feel like that might be the type of thing we see like a year from now, like the beginning of 2022. Even though it sounds like, at the beginning of the year, we have so much time and there's so much flexibility for us to say, oh, this is coming out this year. Something that's coming out in December is coming out this year because we're in January. So it can be 12 months away and people can still say coming this year. So I feel like the timelines might be a little bit off, but yeah, if they plan on bringing back MagSafe for the MacBook Pros, I don't know why they wouldn't bring it back for the Air. There would probably be a whole new standard. I'd be kind of surprised if they had like an entry level MacBook Air that's like the one we have now, and then a higher end MacBook Air that's more money. I don't know. They could do that. I mean, I already think the MacBook lineup is too redundant. Like, I don't think we need a 2-port MacBook Pro and a 2-port MacBook Air. Just get rid of that Pro. Let the Air be the sole entry model for 2-port MacBooks. And if you want more ports than that, just get a Pro. But I guess Apple likes that low entry price with the MacBook Pro models. But Matt says, I would prefer if they kept the touch bar but just had an option to turn it into a digital function row. That way people who like the touch bar, yeah, they have that. That's a thing. I believe anytime you hold the function key, it just turns into all the functions. But I'll miss the touch bar. I believe the report saying it's going away, but similar to 3D Touch, I very much enjoyed the touch bar. And I'm going to be sad when it goes away because I haven't been able to use it lately. I don't have it on this. But whenever I did have it, I appreciated it. For one, I love the slider. I always preferred adjusting brightness with a touch screen. Same with volume. You can be a lot more dynamic and faster. It's a lot faster to just grab the touch bar and scroll to the bottom instead of, adjusting something, like tapping over and over again. Same with predictive text. Whenever I was using iMessage with the touch bar, having the little predictive text things that I could reach up and tap, that was so cool. It felt more futuristic to have the touch bar, but just like 3D Touch, I completely get why they want to remove it. It's an enthusiast thing. It's an Apple fanboy, Apple sheep type of thing that, like, we love it, but Apple is pulling the average consumers. And I even ran a poll in my audience. I think it's very fair to say a very Apple sheep. Who is this? Oh, okay, that's not real. I thought someone said the live stream was Signal for privacy. It almost looked like the actual Signal Twitter account. It's not. It looks like a parody account, but I guess we got to stream with Signal. I ran a Twitter poll with a very biased Apple sheep audience, and the majority of the people voting in my poll even were saying the touch bar is fine, but I could live without it. And I don't think Apple wants to go through all the struggle of keeping the touch bar. If that's the majority of Apple sheep's opinion, you can only imagine what the non-Apple sheep average consumer opinion is. Only 12% of people voting were saying like they hate it and they want it gone completely. 56%, though, that was what most people voted, were saying it's fine, but I'd also be okay if it wasn't there. And 32% of that poll was saying love it, don't get rid of the touch bar. So the fact that less than a third of 1,800 votes on a very Apple sheep biased audience, less than a third were saying don't remove it, and over 2/3 were saying, yeah, it's either fine, but I could live without it, or they're saying get rid of it, I don't like it. So I can only imagine what Apple's seeing. So I get why they're getting rid of it, but same thing with options. I wish as complicated as the supply chains would be and as complicated as the website would be, I wish there would just be a little option at checkout that says include touch bar, don't include touch bar. Just a little checkbox. We're going to have Apple Silicon in the MacBook Pros out there. So there's probably not going to be as many CPU options. Just replace one of those CPU tiers during checkout with a um, touch bar option at checkout. It's probably too expensive and too complicated. I get that. But if we're just talking from a consumer standpoint, what would I like? I would love to just have it be optional. Be like a 200, even if it was like a $300 add-on, I would still probably get it because I appreciate the touch bar. But if you all want to save $300 on your MacBook and not have a touch bar, good for you. Have the option. If they'd update the 13-inch 2-port to also remove it then, probably not all at once, but yeah, over time they would eventually get rid of it. Similar to the butterfly keyboard. For a while, the 16-inch MacBook Pro had the touch bar and the Magic Keyboard, but everything else had the butterfly keys, and over time they moved it on. We need a Mac with a M1X. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. I don't know how to say your name, but you're the only one asking this, so hopefully this answers your question. What type of Touch ID do you prefer? In-screen fingerprint scanner or fingerprint scanner embedded on power button? I don't really like Touch ID very much. It never really worked well for me with my psoriasis. Now it works, and I still prefer Face ID. So my current plan is to buy the first iPhone with 120 hertz, whatever the bigger screen is. I don't want to get the 6.1 inch screen. That form factor is too middle ground, and I'm not a middle ground type guy. I want to go either tiny portable light phone, or I want to go big massive phablet. I loved the screen size on the 12 Pro Max, but I also love the screen size on this. It just felt like two different products, but I enjoyed both of them. And I tried the 12 Pro at 6.1 inches, and I was just like, it's not small enough or big enough for me. So I'll probably get the 120 hertz 12 Pro Max, and if that has Touch ID, I probably won't even set it up, to be honest with you. Maybe if I run into a situation where I'm at the grocery store wearing masks a lot, but I don't even know if I'll be. I mean, we could be looking at a very different pandemic by then. Hopefully, things could go horribly, and we're still stuck in the same situation we're in now. But maybe if the vaccination stuff goes well, I don't know. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, if my next iPhone has Touch ID, I would probably use it like less than 5% of the time. I would pretty much only use it when using Apple Pay at the grocery store with a mask on. And every other time, whenever I'm at home, I would much rather use Face ID over Touch ID. So personally, I have the in-screen fingerprint sensor on my OnePlus 8 Pro, and I don't like the kind that light up the screen, and I know not all of them do that. Apple would probably not do the kind that lights up. I forget the terminology. It's like ultrasonic or something. But if they did something that involved you just resting your finger there, I don't know. It feels more, I guess it feels more intuitive because the fingerprint reader is close to where the home button used to be. So people are like, boom, okay, like I can unlock just like I used to. But I don't know. I feel like when there's not an actual button and there's nowhere for your finger to, like, other than just muscle memory, you just have to kind of remember that specific spot. It'd be one thing if Touch ID was filling like the whole bottom half of the screen, but normally with Touch ID these days, it's a specific spot that you have to kind of just memorize, which I guess if you're a techie person, you get used to it, but I would rather it be a dedicated area so that you know where it is. So in my opinion, a lot of people probably disagree, but I would rather have it on the power button because you at least know exactly where to put your finger. You can feel for it, you can see it, and you know exactly. In my opinion, that would keep Face ID as the like dominant biometric. So Face ID is what you should use, but in the event that you need Touch ID, it's on the side. It's like your plan B. It's your backup biometric. Whereas putting it in the screen, I feel like could end up making people think, okay, Touch ID is now the dominant biometric. I'm going to use that for everything. And then Face ID becomes kind of pointless. And I mean, people's personal preference is fine. If most people decide Touch ID is better than Face ID and they want to embrace that instead of Face ID, okay, go for it, I guess. That's what people want. But I don't want that to happen, I guess, in long term. I don't want Apple to find out, for my own personal and selfish reasons. This is not for the betterment of all of us. This is just for my personal taste. If Apple puts it in the display and then everyone uses that and stops using Face ID, then Apple will decide we don't need Face ID anymore. We can make a smaller notch if we don't have Face ID. So they just go all in on the fingerprint reader, ditch Face ID, which I would not like because I prefer Face ID. So I don't want that to be the end result here. So whatever they do with Touch ID, I just hope it's a little bit worse than Face ID so that most people don't switch over to it and Apple remembers Face ID is still better. I feel like the potential for Face ID to grow is a lot more because we could get to the point where if the dot projectors and the IR blasters were like 180 degree ultra wide angle, like you could walk up to it sitting flat at a desk and it could unlock and you wouldn't have to hold it a specific way. Whereas Touch ID, you're still going to be limited to, you got to touch it in some way, shape, or form with the right finger and unlock it. And yeah, I would much rather. I mean, if they can pursue both, that would be great too. I just don't want them to feel like they can get away with one, not the other. And that's normally what happens when Apple starts doing these, like, you can choose either one. They'll figure out which one people are using most and then get rid of the other one so they can save some money on manufacturing or simplify the process. But some people out there would probably rather the notch be smaller and have Touch ID in the display and just not have Face ID. There'd probably be a spooky amount of people okay with that, which I'm like, I don't know. Let's see. What if we got a Mac Pro with dual CPU? I don't think there would be much point in just putting two together. They'd rather just build one CPU with better performance. They're working on a version with up to 32 performance cores. If that becomes an actual product, my gosh, I'm sure it will. If they're planning on transitioning the whole lineup away from Intel, then that means, they're not going to replace the Intel Mac Pro with something that performs worse. That would be a bad look, and it would be bad for the pros. I mean, if they released a machine with the 28 core Intel processor and the crazy afterburner card and all the crazy graphics that the cheese grater Mac Pro can offer, and then they get rid of that and replace it with something that performs worse, it would look terrible for Apple Silicon. And how would people feel if Apple discontinued the fastest Mac ever and replaced it with something slower? Even if it was fine for the average everyday Pro, but not good for the Pro, the $50,000 Pro is too vague. It doesn't specify, the difference between, a wannabe like stay-at-home YouTuber who's making a few videos and getting some clicks versus, Pixar who's trying to render Toy Story 5. Those are both pros. So yeah, having someone who buys the 13-inch MacBook Pro and someone who buys the $50,000 Mac Pro, there's a giant gap there. So yeah, I feel like whatever Apple is cooking up for Mac Pro refresh or these new iMacs, they have to be designing something faster than the best Macs. Especially with all the promises Apple has made with power efficiency and performance per watt. So yeah, the 32 performance cores, that'll be a thing. We're going to see some of the fastest computers you can buy available within the next year or two. Tim Cook said it would take 2 years. So that means that there could technically still be some Intel Macs floating around about a year from now. But I think the majority of the transition will take place this year. The new iMacs, the rest of the MacBook Pros probably will be all transitioned by the end of 2021. And I'm pretty confident that the only Mac with Intel will be the Mac Pro, maybe even some higher tiers. Maybe they don't even keep around that base model $6,000 Mac Pro. And they just say, the only Intel Mac left is like the $10,000 Mac Pro with certain specs. And they keep that around for people who want boot camp or want some modularity. But Bloomberg is even saying we could expect some new redesigned Mac Pros this year with Apple Silicon that will exist alongside the old Mac Pro and have like two different, here's the Apple Silicon version, here's the Intel version. That might get a little too crazy, so I could understand why they end up not doing that. But they've at least admitted that there could be an Intel Mac Pro refresh before they get rid of Intel entirely, which is kind of interesting. You like how we refer to it as the cheese grater or trash can. It's just easier that way. I don't know how else we can refer to the different design language. It's like, that's what they look like. 32 core Apple Silicon chip would destroy a 32 core Xeon CPU. Oh, yeah, for sure. No question. It will destroy everything. A 32 core Apple Silicon chip would destroy, yes, period. It will destroy every other chip on the market, unless we're talking like, business grade, like, what's it called? Server room, like, processing power that's not accessible to, the consumer. Something a business buys for a business. And, other than that type of supercomputer, the type of thing that you could go on the Apple store and buy, or go on Dell's website and buy, whatever Apple Silicon is cooking up is going to outperform all of that, especially knowing how well the M1 chip is outperforming everything on like cheap entry-level Macs. Let's see. I hope they improve the AirPods experience with macOS. It's nowhere near as seamless as iOS. Yeah, I agree. AirPods are very buggy. Still, I had all kinds of issues with my AirPods Pro in noise cancellation and quality control. I basically had to replace my whole pair. I think the left AirPod Pro is the only one I haven't replaced, but I had to get a new case and a new right one because they wouldn't charge or pair, and they were running into all sorts of issues. And every time I'm trying to do FaceTime with my AirPods, I run into, internet dropping, or they can't hear me, or the mic transition doesn't work, and the automatic switching thing that never works as well as I had hoped. Sometimes I'm FaceTiming someone on the iPad, and then I reach to do something on the Mac, and it's like, oh, I'll switch to the Mac now. And it's like, no, I'm talking on the phone. You should know that if I'm having a FaceTime call and I didn't take my AirPods out, I don't want you to switch over to the Mac. There's nothing playing on the Mac. I wish they would do it like other headphones. I know that there's other headphones on the market. I think either the Sony's or the Bose headphones that can be paired to multiple devices at the same time. I feel like that would simplify the process a lot more, to just be like, okay, the user has headphones on, so now whatever Apple product they're using, play the audio through that. So it'd probably not be great for battery life, and it would probably get a bit confusing on the development side of things. But I think for the end user's point of view, it'd be a lot more simple if every piece of audio coming out of all your devices. I mean, there might be some use cases where it's a little confusing, because it's like, no, I want to be listening to something on my headphones, but I also want to be listening to the external speakers on my iPad simultaneously. I feel like that would be more of an exception, not the rule, like not the most common situation. If I'm switching and using my phone and my Mac and my iPad, I would rather just all of the sound any of them are making come out my AirPods. So if my Mac makes a screenshot sound while I'm FaceTiming on my iPad, I hear it both through here. I don't need to hear it separately. And yeah, if there's someone who's like, actually, I do want to hear the iMac speakers while I'm listening to something on my AirPods, just make that a toggle in settings. Just be like, don't connect this one automatically. But they definitely need some kind of rework with the AirPods, in my opinion, because they're not seamless, and they don't help with the whole Apple ecosystem argument very well, because right now it's just so clunky, and they want to switch, and I don't like it. I see your bits, Neum. Drew would love to know your thoughts on Byte getting acquired. I know nothing about Byte, so I don't I doubt I have many opinions on it. A short-form video app became available in August that it would be purchased by Byte, another short-form video app. Man, how many short-form video apps are there? Byte was able to cleave off some of TikTok's user base. Well, TikTok is not banned, so I'm sorry, I have very little thoughts on this. But I appreciate the donation. I'd have to look more into it. 15 bits again. You buy all these products. Not really. I was wondering, how do taxes work via sole proprietor versus LLC? I'm trying to decide which is better to register as. I've met with a few tax professionals about forming an LLC, and at least where I live, I don't know about where you live, so don't consult me. I'm very much an amateur, and I know very little about this. But where I live, if you form an LLC, limited liability company, it becomes that there's a flat tax fee no matter how much you make, just to have an LLC. Where I live, there's like a fat I said fat, there's a flat annual fee that you have to pay that you don't have to pay if you do everything as a sole proprietor. So I instantly save, I think it's something like $800 by not doing it as an LLC. And there's certain benefits to having one, but the tax professional I was talking with said that The whole idea with a LLC is that if someone were to sue you, they would be suing your company and not you as an individual. But there are ways nowadays, anyway, to sue someone through a company, and go after your personal assets anyway. So it's really like it doesn't actually protect you completely, just a little bit more. And then you have to set up a separate, business ID so that, you basically form a company that money goes into, and then through that company, you pay yourself. And it would probably make more sense if I had a bunch of employees, but I don't. So that's why I'm a sole proprietor. Um, but yeah, tax write-off wise, it's not that different. But buying a bunch of different products, you can write it off for the business, or you can write it off as a sole proprietor. That doesn't really have much of an impact. But all I knew is when I looked into it, the LLC was going to cost more. So I was like, nah, no thanks. Anyway, that's more tax reason. Byte is the original creator of Vine before he sold it to Twitter. Oh, yeah. Well, social medias are weird. You can't really just recreate that type of success as easily. People flock to certain sites for certain reasons, and it's very difficult to get people to move, even if the site is better. I've been saying for years how much better Twitch is for live streaming, and yet no matter how much I praise Twitch or how many things I say about how Twitch is better for creators, it's better for viewers, it's better for everybody, there will always be a bunch of people that are like, nah, I don't like Twitch. I just want you to stream on YouTube. I prefer YouTube streaming because I have YouTube and I don't want to have another app, and they don't want to have another account, and they don't want to have to learn new things. Bits? What are bits? I don't know what that is. It's confusing. I just want a super chat. Doesn't matter that super chat is way worse for the creator. And the creator of on YouTube, if you super chat them, only gets a fraction of the money you send, and YouTube does not make that obvious. Whereas on bits, it's abundantly clear how much money is getting sent to the streamer versus how much you have to pay for the bit. So it's a lot more upfront, and it's a lot more honest with monetary, what the streamer is making. Whereas YouTube is not honest at all. People think I super chatted $100, they got $100, and that's not what happens at all. So I've been pushing for, Twitch supports picture in picture, YouTube doesn't. And even then, people will not want to switch. So you will have your random social medias that take off and become super popular. Vine was a good example. But just because you created Vine doesn't mean you can instantly recreate it or get something as popular again. So yeah, I don't know. I wish them the best. Hope it works out for them. But I guess we'll see. Hopefully they can recreate that. Fitness Plus has got its doubters. Is there anything you can think of that could smash expectations? Gym kit with Peloton, Apple's own treadmill bike. Oh, that'd be interesting. I'm really just clueless on that market. It makes no sense to me. But again, I'm probably a bad example because I've never paid for a gym membership, and I always thought those were kind of pointless. So, if I'm the type of person that can't justify paying for a gym membership, I'm not against working out. I'm just saying you can do that on your own time with, you don't have to subscribe to Gravity, basically. I never understood the point of a gym membership. So Fitness Plus is just new levels of pointless, in my opinion, because it's like, okay, they're not providing any equipment here. You have to get all your own equipment, and then you're paying for videos, basically. That's what Fitness Plus is, workout videos that you are subscribing to for $10 a month for someone to just tell you how to use the stuff you already have, which to me makes no sense. I'm one of those doubters. You can quote me. I don't get the point of it, but it's a lot cheaper than a gym, but gyms have equipment that you can use. It'd be a very different. I bet gyms would be a lot cheaper if they didn't provide any equipment or even a space to work out. If all a gym was like sending you a video of ways to work out with equipment at home. David T. Perry says, I pay for gym equipment and a space to work out, but I see your point. Yeah, a lot of people do. The gym membership is a successful business for many, many companies, but I can understand that at least. My wife has talked about getting a gym membership. She's not completely sold on it, but she's thought about it, and I've been, which is interesting to me because she's the one who's kind of like convinced me all about like what services can we cancel and, how little can we get our monthly expenses. So she's, super budget, super affordable, everything. And she even considered doing a gym, but I think the reason gym memberships are so more compelling or more justifiable is because I think people rope up the price with their health a lot. And I feel like it's a bit smarter to kind of separate those two. It's not that you paying for this gym is going to guarantee you're healthy. Your action and how you use that membership is going to make you healthy. It's not the money. Okay. And I think that's a misconception a lot of people have. It's like, well, why would you cancel your gym membership? You don't care about your health? It's like, no, I just believe that all the things I'm doing at the gym I could do without the gym anyway. And I don't need to rent out that space or that equipment. I mean, you can buy weights, you can buy workout equipment, and those will be one-time purchases. Whereas if you subscribe to a gym for years and years and years, you're spending all this money that probably would have cost you less to just buy that equipment yourself. Um, Especially in the time of pandemic, it's not a great time to everybody go into one place where we're all sweating and coughing and spitting, and probably not a great business model now. And that's likely what Fitness Plus is trying to capitalize a bit more on. But yeah, I am trying to convince her and other people that your action in you working out is what makes exercise and healthy habits work for you. It's not the money. You could pay $100 a month for your gym membership, but if you don't use it, it doesn't matter. But the money's still coming out. So, but people rope in that health with the budget thing with the membership really closely, and they act like, oh yeah, if I'm not paying for this, then I'm not going to work out. Some people, I guess, need that motivation. There's a lot of people that feel like they won't work out or they won't exercise if they don't have a membership, and that what's it called, obligation, because you feel like, oh, I'm paying for that, I better use it, and basically you guilt trip yourself into thinking, well, if I don't go to the gym, I'm wasting my money, so I'm going to keep paying for it so that I will feel bad if I don't go to the gym. Whereas if I'm not paying for any gym membership and stuff, then I'll just do nothing and not work out. I guess some people need that, and that's fine. Whatever works for you, that's great. But I would much rather just say, like, I'm going to work out. I'm gonna just do this on my own merit. I'm not doing it because I feel bad for spending money. I'm just doing it because it's good for me, and I want that to be the driving force. I don't want to be guilt tripped into working out. I just want to work out, which is why I'm going on runs and stuff. And I have lost some weight, FYI. But yeah, if Apple wanted to get into maybe more of a justifiable membership, go against Peloton, that'd be interesting. I don't see them doing it. It's probably a little bit too of a niche. But at the same time, though, you could make the argument of, Peloton is banking on that kind of membership and that business model of monthly charges alongside the product sales, which is what most of Apple's revenue is now. So if they wanted to pivot and push really hard towards Fitness Plus, I don't know what they would call it. I don't think Fitness Plus Max or can you do another service on top of a service? Fitness Plus Pro, Fitness Pro Plus, or something crazy. Because I don't think if they were competing with Peloton, even if they sold an exercise bike or a treadmill or something, I don't think the service would be $10 a month. They would probably cost more. What they could end up doing, because I know a few, not friends, but like my wife knows a lot of people from her job that I've met over the years, and a few of them have Pelotons. And I know that a lot of the business model pitch for the Peloton has been like, you finance the bike and you bundle it with the service. So instead of dropping however much it costs, I think it's something like $1,000 or $2,000 to get that exercise bike, instead you finance it. So it costs you $50 or $60 a month, and then you get the bike and the membership included. So Apple could maybe develop something like that if they're really trying to push the services model, is like develop some custom hardware. And maybe Apple doesn't even sell the bike outright. That's something, it's a sad reality, but it's a future I think Apple's probably moving toward, of we're just going to get everybody on memberships. We're just going to get everybody on services. We're not going to do buying things outright or buying things unlocked anymore. We're just going to go all in on, you can't buy the bike outright, but you can subscribe to Apple Pro Fitness or Apple Fitness Plus Pro, whatever they end up calling it. And you will get the bike and you get the Fitness Plus exclusives, And maybe they could make it cheaper than Peloton because they could let you dock your iPad instead of having a whole dedicated display like the Peloton does with the little handles and the screen up there. They're just like, drop your iPad Pro. It's got smart connector support, or it's got a little lightning plug or a USB-C. You just put your iPad there on top of the bike, and that can offset some of the cost. They could maybe, if they wanted to, there's all kinds of categories. I feel like that would be cool for Apple to enter. I've always been very vocal about, like, if Apple made their own dedicated cameras, that would be dope. They probably won't, but it would be amazing if they did. Same with like appliances. I would not be against Apple wanting to make refrigerators or laundry machines. You can make as many stuff as you want if you apply that great, like, Apple, it just works in their design ethos and the simplicity of the software. I probably wouldn't get those appliances because they'd likely be very, very expensive. But I'm not against Apple entering new fields because honestly, I think the fields they're in right now are going to run out of interesting and innovative things to do anyway. Like right now, in 2021, it's going to be all about Apple catching up on the Mac, right? They're finally updating the iMac design. They're going back to what people loved about the MacBook line, and of course, they're transitioning to Apple Silicon with these great specs, great performance. Okay, great. But what about after that? What about, okay, all Intel is gone. There's no more Intel Macs. Every Mac is super fast now. All the Apple Silicon transition has taken place. We've gotten rid of bezels. Now we have a cheap standalone monitor. We've got an iPad Pro looking iMac, and we've got the fastest, best cameras in a smartphone, and we've got great chips. iPad Pros have OLED and 120 hertz, and iPhones have 120 hertz. Like, what are we gonna do? How many little incremental upgrades are we going to make in all these different? Apple Watch has another health sensor. It's got another thing, and it basically feels like Apple's progression outside of all this hardware peaking, because it is. I mean, we're running out. I mean, Apple Watch Series 6 commercial was admitting like, oh yeah, it already does that. Oh yeah, it already does that. It's like, this is the R&D team. They're like, what do we add to the watch? We've kind of run out of stuff to add other than just like, I'll make it a little bit better. So I'm all in favor of Apple entering different markets and trying to be bring disruptive innovation to different categories. Just because I think it'll be interesting, not because I necessarily need it. AirTags is kind of Apple entering a different category. I don't need AirTags, and I don't think I'm going to buy any to keep. I might get some to review, but I can't remember the last time I was like, oh, I lost something. I wish I would have put a geo-tracking tag on it or something. The last time I lost my keys was, I think, 2017. I remember it specifically because I was freaking out because it had like my car keys, my apartment keys, and my office keys. There were a lot of like very valuable things on it, and I think I was without them for a couple hours, and then Louise found them. We were dating at the time. We weren't married, but she was like, oh, I found them. They're in your backpack. And, they were somewhere super obvious, but it only lasted a couple hours. It wasn't like a multi-day issue. And since then I have not lost anything really. So I've not been misplacing things enough for me to justify spending any money. Even if AirTags were like $1, they won't be. But even if they were $1, I'd be like, I don't know. I'd have to charge it and I don't know, keep track of it. I feel like I'm gonna lose my AirTag. Get an AirTag for that. When was the last time you traveled? I did a bit of a. It sounds hypocritical, but I did a bit of a quarantine trip, which basically I met up with my good friend Mike, Model Y Mike from Telos EV, and him and his wife have basically been quarantined at home for several weeks, and me and my wife were quarantined at home for several weeks. So we decided that it would be pretty safe for us to do a little meetup. So we stayed at his house for a couple nights, and that was fun. But we didn't really go too far out, and when we were out, we would put masks on. So we felt like we were pretty safe with it, and I also feel a lot better now because my grandma, who's at 94 years old, was the person I've been hesitant to see the most during the pandemic because obviously, the COVID's been known to be pretty impactful on older age demographics, and she's already has a few health issues, nothing major, but some stuff. And she's 94, so I was like, I don't want to get near grandma. I want to, make sure she's okay, and I'm worried about her. So, but I found out a few days ago she got vaccinated. So she got the vaccine and she's feeling great. She's had it for over a week now, and she's doing great. So I'm happy to hear that. So hopefully I can see her again soon. Um, but yeah, anyway, last time I traveled was 2 weeks ago now, I think. Marquez filmed and uploaded one video in 8K once. Usually he films but doesn't upload in 8K. I think he's done a few videos in 8K. He did a 8K gaming video with the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series X or one of those new consoles. He did a video on 8K gaming with a PC, I think, at one point as well. 8K is very overkill, though. I agree. I don't think 8K will ever be a standard like 1080p is. Let's see. If Face ID is so important, maybe you should have gone with the SE, and I'm guessing you value your money. Oh, am I missing something? You donated bits, Neum, again. Thank you. Says, coming from an iPhone 5C to 12 Pro Max, I'm starting to really hate Face ID. It's annoying. In the new mask society, I would buy the first Apple Watch if it could unlock my iPhone like it does MacBooks. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Well, I guess maybe you should stay tuned for this year's iPhone. Touch ID might make that big an impact. Let's see. Yeah, we'll wait till 2 weeks after the second shot. I would love Apple to get into other markets. I really need a Siri washing machine. I never got there are certain appliances that are smart for no reason. Like I never got the point of the smart microwave. Like what does that do? You're going to be putting food, unless it's able to find a way to take food in and out of the microwave and put it on the dinner table. I don't know why I would want to control a microwave remotely, because I have to touch the thing. I have to open it up and put food in it regardless. If I'm there, I might as well push buttons. I don't think telling Siri to microwave something for 60 seconds is going to be much faster than just... It's a button. Come on. It's not that difficult. Irad Neural says, just got my second half of my vaccine. My grandma got her 1 week ago. We are from Israel. We good to get vaccinated. So in a week, I'll be able to see her for the first time in 3 months. Yay! That's great news. I'm happy for you. I hope it works. That's awesome. Okay, what is your thought on Apple turning the Apple TV app into a YouTube competitor and adding more perks to Apple TV Plus, like no ads? I thought there weren't ads on TV Plus. There's ads on TV Plus? Oh my God. It keeps getting worse. You mean like no ads for the YouTube competitor version? Yeah, I think we talked about that a little bit. I think it was Viper. Shout out to Viper's channel, VYYYPER. Check him out. He was saying stuff like Apple TV Plus or Apple TV should be like a YouTube alternative thing that anybody could upload content to. I think he was the one who pitched that idea to me, and I was like, yeah, I want as many YouTube competitors as possible, but when kind of startups do it all by themselves, it's, just through brand alone, it's going to be difficult to get people to switch. So if you really want a YouTube competitor, you're going to need a major brand with a lot of marketing power, not just like, try Vid. You know what's funny? Over the years, I've complained about YouTube's choices and YouTube's way of handling their site a lot. And there is always, every month, at least 2 to 3 people emailing me with, this is going to be the next YouTube killer, or this is going to be the best platform. This is going to be better than YouTube. And we're trying to get people to switch from this over from YouTube. The name of that alternative, that YouTube killer, has probably changed 10 to 12 times in the past 3 years. So for once it was like, you switch to Vimeo, or no, switch to Vid4Me, or no, switch to this site, switch to this site. I got another one just before I went live. There's some other platform, someone's emailing me. There's like, hey, this is going to be better than YouTube. And I'm like, the fact that it keeps changing, and you guys, like, all these YouTube alternatives are like, they're basically a dime a dozen. They come out, no one uses them, they can't stay afloat, so they die off and become irrelevant, and then another one pops up, and everyone's like, no, this is the YouTube replacement, and then they die off, and no, this is the YouTube replacement. That's what I mean. Like, this is what I'm referring to, is it's very, very difficult to get people to switch platforms. Even if you get popular and well-known creators, even major brands have a hard time switching platforms. Just look at Mixer. Mixer was pouring billions of dollars into getting streamers to move over from Twitch. They're like, oh, we're going to be the next big thing. Mixer, we're owned by Microsoft. Microsoft has all this power. We can get everybody to move to Mixer. Mixer's way better. We love the community. I had a few friends that were on Mixer streaming, and they were loving it. They loved it way more than Twitch. And even then, Mixer was like, nah, we can't do this. Never mind. We're giving up. Sorry, can't do Mixer anymore. So they shut it down. And that's from like a trillion-dollar company, I think, started a streaming service like that. So if you want to compete with YouTube, you need one of the major big tech companies to really pour some dedicated money and time into it. And even then, it's not a guarantee. Mixer was probably the closest thing we got to like a Twitch killer or a Twitch replacement, and that didn't even work out. Everybody who went to Mixer eventually ended up having to either go back to Twitch or go to YouTube. And that's with all of Microsoft's power. Yeah, Facebook bought them and turned them into Facebook Gaming or something like that. So yeah, you need something major to compete with a platform as big as YouTube, and Apple has the money and resources to do that. The thing is, you got to remember, YouTube is not super profitable. Google does not make a ton of money on YouTube. If anything, they lose a lot of money on YouTube, and we should probably be very grateful that they don't cancel it or shut it down. At least shut down the partner program or shut down the monetization process, because they frankly, like, it's not a big cash cow, which is likely why a lot of companies are not jealous of Google owning YouTube. They're not jealous of how big YouTube is, because the amount of copyright laws they go through, the amount of demonetization and lawsuits they go through with advertisers getting their ads played on controversial content, and how YouTube's had to deal with that. It is a big headache running a site like YouTube, trying to find a way to make it profitable, trying to make the advertisers happy, trying to make the content creators happy. It's a big mess. And frankly, with how copyright law is today, it's kind of a miracle that YouTube exists at all. From a business standpoint, Google would not honestly be that crazy to just be like, you know what, we're not going to pay content creators anymore because this is just too complicated. The copyright laws are too messy, and we're not making any money off this, so we just don't want to do it anymore. They could do that at any moment. People forget that. There's no contract Google has signed with YouTube or YouTube has with its creators that says we must provide you an income, we must provide you a job for the next X many years. They don't guarantee you anything for the next week. They could shut down the whole partner program tomorrow if they wanted to. Which is why I'm, trying to invest and save as much as I can and lower our monthly expenses, because we really don't know how stable this income is. It's still, in the grand scheme of things, YouTube is still pretty new, and there's all kinds of issues we could run into that just haven't been foreseen yet. So I would love it as a content creator and as a fan of Apple. I would love for them to make a video hosting site that you could upload content to and make kind of Apple's own version of YouTube. I would love it as a fan, but looking at it from their perspective as a business model, I get why they're not crazy about that idea, and they probably won't do it because Google's not having that much luck with it anyway. So I totally understand why they don't. YouTube is too big to die by the hands of competitors. Yeah, you're probably right. Competitors, the really only thing that competes very well with YouTube is like alternative, I would say something like Instagram or TikTok, but that's not even really the same type of content. It's kind of a vertical content that's meant for mobile consumption, is really better at short-term, shorter videos, usually under a minute. There's some that are over a minute, but YouTube is more built around that 10-minute video format. And TikTok and Instagram aren't really competing in that way. They're just kind of glorified stories, glorified Vine, turning into like, oh, here's this 30-second clip or this loop or this whatever. Whereas YouTube kind of is a different kind of video streaming site that's not easy to replicate. So even if Apple or Amazon, Twitch has put some work into making Twitch support, edited content, but it's really still built for live streaming. Even if a major company poured a bunch of money into some kind of alternative, you would still have a very hard time getting people to switch over, because people are comfortable with the sites they're on and they don't like switching. It's a fact. It doesn't matter if the other site's better. Even if it pays the creators better, it's hard to get people to switch. Trust me. Have I updated my OnePlus 8 to Android 11? It went through a few updates recently. I don't know if it was the Android 11 one. Where do you check that anyway? I barely use this thing, to be honest. Accounts? No, that's not it. System. System updates. Check for updates. Yeah, your system is up to date. Android version 11. So, okay, we're on 11. I'll check for another one. Nope. I'm on the latest version of Android. The OnePlus 8 will support, so I cannot update it any further. Sometimes only the size of a platform is enough for it to not be able to die. I agree. I read, yeah, it's very true. If YouTube is one of, I think, the biggest platforms on the internet, it's enormous. I don't think people understand the sheer scale of it. You know, Twitch is a pretty big platform, but the last numbers I was looking at were something like 100 million active users monthly. It's probably more than that now. It might be more like 200 million, but YouTube is like over 1.5 billion, I think. I think they crossed 2 billion or something like that. My income's pretty stable. I haven't gone on Nebula or Curiosity Stream, but I make revenue from Twitch. I make revenue from the podcast. I make revenue from Patreon and merch sales and that kind of thing. YouTube could crash and burn, and I'd be fine. I would make enough from other stuff to pay my bills and everything like that. But yeah, we're prepared for the worst. But I know people have switched to those sites. I haven't messed around with them myself. Let's see. I think YouTube is the longest lasting social media. Social media apps usually last around 3 to 5 years. Probably one of the bigger ones. Facebook is a huge one. Definitely Facebook has become a lot less popular with younger demographics, but it's still very popular in older demographics and in other countries outside of the US. Waiting for Randy's full Star Wars parody. Yeah, you should make that. It would be cool if YouTube, Twitch gave creators healthcare like they do employees. It's not that simple. I mean, I agree from a creator standpoint. Yeah, it'd be nice if they just included healthcare, but they would have to get that money from somewhere, and it would probably end up hurting you in the long run. So if YouTube wanted to start paying certain creators, if YouTube wanted to start providing healthcare to certain creators, they would most likely have to increase the number of ads you get on your videos, or they would have to increase the price of YouTube Premium and that kind of thing. Because again, like I said, they're already not making much money on YouTube. So if they wanted to start including all that, they don't even give me premium for free. I always thought that it would make sense. Like Discord, when you become a Discord partner, they give you Discord Nitro for free, which is like $10 a month or $5 a month or something like that. But YouTube, I thought that maybe if you hit a certain milestone, like either 100,000 subscribers or if you hit 1 million subscribers, they should just give you YouTube Premium. You know, they should just include that. It's only like $12 a month value. They should just be like, hey, you're a partner, you get the premium version of YouTube. Thanks for your help. But no, even if you have 50 million subscribers and you're like, hey, can I watch YouTube without ads? I mean, I make you guys millions of dollars a year. They'll be like, nope, $12. That's $12 a month. So if they're not willing to do that, I doubt they'd be willing to do healthcare. Facebook is dead from the simple reason of the app being broken. I know that in our little younger demographic millennial world, we like to think of Facebook as dead, but active user base is still very high. It is a large platform with a lot of people using it. Just not as many younger people. Younger people, teenagers in early 20s have moved on to other platforms, different sites, but they're still in the probably late 20s to middle age to more elderly graphic. The Facebook social media is still very common. Internet goes down around the world, Drew. No, I think we'd all be upset, especially during a pandemic. We'd be very, very screwed if the internet went down everywhere. I'm just glad my house is paid off. Someone has 1 billion subs and YouTube says no YouTube Premium. Yeah. That's currently has its. They will not give anybody YouTube Premium, no matter what the size of the channel is. Will you use Twitter Spaces? I just learned that all iOS abusers can join a space, and you can be made a speaker. Not everyone can host a space just yet. It's coming to desktop, iPad. I don't know what that is. Voice rooms testing? Probably not because I haven't heard of it. But thank you for the bits. Um, Added and more stable income. I haven't done much research on Nebula and Curiosity Stream. I've heard people talk about them a lot. I don't know what type of steps you have to go through to get monetized on there. So I don't know. I don't really have the time. I'm kind of maxed out with time as is. If YouTube crashed and burned, maybe I would look at more alternatives like that. But so far it's okay. Still here. I'm still making money on YouTube a bit. As long as that's there, that's probably going to be my go-to. But if that goes away, I would instantly get a lot more time to be like, okay, what else can I work on? So yeah. Facebook getting disguised toast. Facebook gaming really helped them keep up in competition. Yeah, they've got a lot of people to advertise to. That's for sure. My cousin is scaring me. Drew, do you think Disney Plus and TV Plus will go the route of other streaming services by sucking people in and getting them trapped, and then increasing prices because that's actually genius? Yeah, that's exact. Netflix did the exact same thing. Yeah, no, you have to be silly to think that Disney Plus or TV Plus were going to stay at $5 or $7 a month forever. That was never the plan. The whole concept of the service was to get you hooked on the shows first and then increasingly raise the bill, raise the subscription so that before you know it, you're spending $20 a month on that, but you've fallen in love with 2 or 3 shows or a bunch of movies on there that you feel like you can't get rid of it. Netflix did that exact same thing, and that's what all these companies are doing anyway. Disney Plus, Apple TV Plus, Discover Plus, HBO Max, they're all doing the exact same thing of just start them low, get them addicted, and then raise the prices. Except TV Plus, yeah, that'll be free forever. It's funny, I just got the email as you guys were asking about that. I had my phone out, and it says you now have free access to TV Plus until July. So, yeah, it's still free, still going. Gotta postpone that cancel event in my calendar. I'm still not paying for it, by the way. I've not found a show or movie that I've been like, oh yeah, I'm gonna keep paying for TV Plus so I can finish that. No, thank you. Have you used any custom icons on iPhone? No, that's just not really my thing. I'm fine with the default icon. I've never been one to like, I gotta get my apps just right. You know why? It's because I never just like stare at my home screen very much. So I'm not going to put a bunch of work and energy into something that I'm never going to really see. I'm just going to see it when I unlock, and then I'm going to tap to open a different app. So I've never really felt much need or desire to put a bunch of work into my home screen. Nebula and Curiosity Stream is just paid subscription services. I don't think there's monetization. Oh. Well, the creators must get paid somehow, right? They must. Otherwise, why would they create to it? But if it's paid only, yeah, I something tells me I wouldn't get paid very well over there. 100 bits from Chris Norton. Thank you very much. Says, I used to use Facebook, then I realized I was getting hooked, so I stopped using it. I've used Facebook Marketplace quite a bit because there's a lot more people on there than other, what do you call, local sales of stuff. You don't have to open shortcuts before. They do it for science. Do it for science. Not anymore, at least. Yeah, I've seen some people with the custom icons thing. I've never been like, whoa, that's so good. I need it on my own thing. I've just been like, oh, okay, that's cute. Have your little custom icons. Good for you. That's fun. Do I want to spend 30 minutes on my phone rearranging everything? No, not really. That's okay. Don't have that kind of time. That's funny. Twitter Spaces. What else did they come up with? That reminded me of like stories or something. Someone asked me earlier, I guess I forgot. What's your plan, Drew? A new Apple Silicon iMac to replace your iMac Pro or an Apple Silicon MacBook Pro? I don't know if Dave is still watching, but Dave, I saw your message. iMac is my go-to. I tried the M1 MacBook Air and I realized I can't make good use of a MacBook in my work life. So probably because of my iPad Pro being too similar. So if I'm going to have a Mac, I want it to be a desktop Mac. If I needed to move around a lot, then maybe I would consider a MacBook, but I don't. Most of my work is all done right here. So desktop, big screen, thin bezel. That's what I want. Anyway, um, last donation from Neum. Thank you for the bits. I'll answer this and then I got to get going. He says, Drew, you make me scared talking about YouTube crashing and burning. How would a company at that size just be gone tomorrow? Usually, if a company is going down the crapper, analysts see it coming from a mile ahead, and there's articles, but it's also a Google-owned company, and their parent company is infamous for just randomly shuttering unsuccessful and successful products and services. Only reason I say that, it's not to scare you, it's just to prepare people and realize that YouTube is not like traditional jobs or traditional positions where you get hired and you're like, okay, I have an income now, and I have job protection, or I get certain things included with that job. You don't. It's all 1099. We're not employees of Google. We're not employees of YouTube. We're contracted out, which means that they can change the terms at the drop of a hat. They can change their policies, and they do left and right. It's like, oh, if you make content for kids, you can't make money anymore. Or just if you swear in your videos, you can't make money anymore. They change things like that. So I say that because if any of you out there are thinking about becoming YouTubers or trying to be YouTubers or working on your channel, just keep in mind that have a ready backup plan. You want to be ready because something could go wrong very quickly. And there's no contract, there's no promise with YouTube that says we're going to be here and we're going to keep hosting your videos for free and we're going to keep paying you a set amount. There's no promises at all. They could just one day decide that we're losing too much money on this and we don't want to do it anymore. I agree, they would probably give us a warning, just a common courtesy thing. They would probably be like, okay, 2022, we're not going to do the partner program if you have under 1 million subscribers. So if you're under 1 million subs, we're just not going to pay you anymore. They could do something like that, if they wanted to. They would get a lot of backlash, but they would not be in like legal trouble. They would get a lot of negative press, but they can. It's physically possible, So keep that in mind and keep your income diverse somewhat so you can be prepared for the worst. But yeah, if you've got income from other sources and you keep your monthly expenses down and you work towards more, paying things off and not living paycheck to paycheck or financing things, that's, in my opinion, the smarter way to go when you have unpredictable income like YouTube. But anyway, appreciate the bits, guys, and appreciate the Twitch Primes. I love it when you guys tune in. I love answering your questions, but I got some more videos to work on. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Take care, all. Bye-bye.